What we're seeing in America today is an actual spiritual barometer for what's going on in the world. And believe me, it's not pretty. England had become a nation without a soul. A beggar could die of exposure in a merchant's doorway, and the merchant arriving to open up that store in the morning would be irate at having to step over the body and would fret about how bad it might be for business until the body could be disposed of. They went on to say that in the midst of this, there was a group of men and women who determined with all of their heart and life to put Jesus Christ first. They believed in the God of the Bible. They believed in holiness, and they believed in righteousness. The religious leaders of that day began to derisively call them Puritans. In their mind, it was a put down. But these remnant of men and women who still believed in the God of the Bible, they took that name Puritan and they made it their own. It actually meant one who tries to purify from within. And it said this: the Puritans were never complacent about their salvation. As the English Puritan theologian Richard Baxter put it, man's fall was his turning from God to himself. And his regeneration consisted in the turning of him from himself back to God. Hence, self-denial and the love of God are all one and the same. The very names of self and own should sound in the watchful Christian ears as very terrible, awakening words that are next to the names of sin and Satan. They were saying that self must be put under the blood. Thomas Hooker, the most articulate of the ministers of that day, spoke for all the New England Puritans when he further identified thy primary adversary as self. He said this: not what self will, but what the Lord will. Self, he said, was the great snare and the false Christ, a spider's web spun out of our bowels and the very figure or type of hell. He said to lay down God, self, to purge the devil's poison and venom or infection of self, was to kill the old Adam in us and to strike a blow against Antichrist, that is the self in all. The Puritans need not be overly concerned with the devil if he directed his energies toward Christ and against self. And then he went on to say this, that one of the most dedicated Puritans in England, John Winthrop, in reading over his journal many years later, made this statement: I desire to make it one of my chief petitions to have that grace to be poor in spirit. I will walk ever humbly before my God, and meekly, mildly, and gently towards all men. I do resolve first to give myself, my life, my wits, my health, my wealth, to the service of my God and Savior, who by giving himself for me and to me deserves whatever I am or can be, to be at his commandment and his glory. They said that it was these type of men who, in the midst of great religious persecution, that eventually forced them to leave England and go to Holland. A price was put on their head. The Church of England tried to kill and destroy many of them. But they believed that God had preserved them because they believed that God had something great in store for them. And these gentlemen, in writing their book, actually said that the Puritans of old actually believed that in this new country called America, that God was leading them here to start a nation that Christ would be glorified. As historian Perry Miller would say, He said that the Bay Company, as they were called, was not a battered remnant of suffering separatists thrown upon a rocky shore. It was an organized task force of Christians executing a flank attack on the corruptions of Christendom. These Puritans did not flee to America. They went in order to work out that complete reformation which was not yet accomplished in England and Europe. And when they came to the shores of this great nation, the first thing that they resolved, they said that in every city established on the shores of America, that the first thing that must be built must be a church. And they made a pact with God. They said, Lord, if you will bless our endeavors, if you will bless our crops, if you will provide for us, we will put Jesus Christ first. And for many years, every single town that was established once Plymouth Rock, once those Puritans landed, every single town that was built, a church was built and planned first. And every Sunday they would gather together to give God the glory for the harvest that he provided, the health that he provided, the welfare that he provided, and the safety that he provided. But as the years passed, suddenly that vision became lost. And the question was asked, what happened? What happened was very simple. The generations that followed, the children, the grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren no longer put Christ first, but they put, and they quoted it, commerce, trade, and prosperity became their priority. Cotton Mather, one of the greatest Puritan preachers of the 1600s here in this nation, made the most profound statement that I have ever read in my life. He said, religion begat prosperity, and the daughter devoured the mother. I'm going to say it again. Religion begat prosperity, and the daughter devoured the mother. John Danforth, another Puritan preacher, said, better is it that Israel be saved and prosperity lost than that prosperity be saved and Israel lost. And I want to change his words a little bit tonight and say this. It is better for the church to be saved and prosperity lost than prosperity be saved and the church lost. And in case you didn't hear me, I'm going to say it again. It is better for the church to be saved and prosperity lost than prosperity saved and the church lost. Now I want to tell you something right now. The modern day greed gospel is one of the worst cancers and blight on the present day church. I don't apologize for saying that. I'm not going to back up for saying that, and I'm not going to apologize saying that. It is evil, it is a cancer, and it leads to covetousness, and it leads to destruction. There is no difference between the evil of that message and the evil of Las Vegas, Atlantic City, or any other place of gambling. Actually, Las Vegas and Atlantic City and any other casino is more holy than that demonic greed gospel, because casinos do not bring God into their lives.